I'll now take the settlement for this meeting of the Clydesdale Area Committee held on Wednesday the 20th of August 2025. Councillor Ali Allison is not present. All members are present. Councillors Ralph Barker, Poppy Corbett, Ross Gowland, with apologies from Councillor Lindsay Hamilton. Following members are all present. Councillors Mark Horsham, Ross Lambie, Richard Lockhart, Irene Logan, Julia Mars, with apologies from Councillor Ian McCallan. And Councillors Catherine McClymont and David Shearer are present. Thank you, and I'll pass you back to the Chair for today's business.
Thank you. Thanks, Stuart. So, item 1 is declarations of interest. Does anybody have any declarations that you wish to tell us about now? Thanks. Ross?
Yeah, the declaration of interest for the equations, which is in the papers, is I'll skip the agenda.
Item 8.
Yeah, item 8.
And it's application D.
Application D, Ishcom Scotland Limited.
Can you just advise the nature of that interest, please?
I know.
Thank you.
I don't see any other hands, and nobody else is indicating any declarations of interest, so that's fine. So item 2 is the minutes of the previous meeting, pages 3 to 8, and they agreed.
Agreed.
That's right. Right, that's fine. So we'll go on to item 3, which is the local policing annual update presentation from Scotland. And invite Chief Inspector Sarah McCarthy, welcome. And Inspector Kenny McDonald, welcome to you as well, to speak to the questions. To the presentation, sorry, first. Thank you. And there's something on screen, hopefully you can see it.
Good afternoon, Chair and Councillors. I'm Chief Inspector Sarah McArthur. I'm the local police area commander for Clydesdale and Hamilton. My left is Inspector Kenny McRobert, who's the Clydesdale area inspector. It's our privilege to be before you today to provide an update regarding this year's police activity within Clydesdale. As your area commander, my role is to oversee our police operations and ensure that we're responsive to the needs of the community and dedicated to maintaining a safe environment for all residents and businesses who operate in the area. I'll just move on to slide number 2. So as you can see, I lead a diverse team of officers. We're not only committed to providing effective policing, but are also deeply invested in building relationships with community members as well. And it just, this slide outlines there who we've got in what area and the number of officers. If we could move on to the next slide. So I'm determined to deliver the highest quality policing service within Clydesdale, where our activity is focused and strategically aligned with Operation Evolve. This is Police Scotland's 2030 vision, and this involves the delivery of safer communities, less crime, supported victims, and a thriving workforce. I'll now pass you on to Inspector McRobert, who will provide an overview of our activity within Clydesdale, which will demonstrate our focus on tackling key issues such as crime prevention, community engagement, and enhancing public trust. Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am. I'm Kenny McRobert, Clydesdale and Blackpool Area Inspector. Most of you know me around the table already. So over the past year, we've engaged, listened and responded to public, community and stakeholder concerns. In addition to this, we have analysed incident and crime data from the area and utilised this to ensure our service is informed and that our resources have been used in an efficient and effective manner. Our response officers have worked hard to deal with reported incidents, many of which require immediate attention and often involve complex mental health issues. Through engagement with residents, community groups, elected members and local businesses, our Clydesdale community team have identified the issues causing the greatest public concern and in association with our local authority and third sector partners have worked hard to address these and tackle the root causes to prevent future harm and build safer communities. Go to the next slide, please. Violent crime and antisocial behaviour. Should everyone around the table will agree we've again experienced unacceptable levels of violence and disorder in the Clydesdale area. Incident and crime pattern analysis has shown that much of this relates to young persons behaving in a disorderly manner within our town centres across Clydesdale. To address these issues, we have carried out the following actions. With our Clydesdale School Education Initiative, which is fortnightly attendance of our community policing teams at Clydesdale High Schools, engaging with youths while supporting staff and promoting responsible behaviour within the community. Doesn't always work as yet, but we are working hard to push the kids that way. Youth Engagement Forum. Our problematic youths are identified and discussed by partners including our South Lanarkshire Council Anti-Social Investigation Team, Social Work and NHS. We've carried out surgeries with the elected members. Some of you had the displeasure of having to sit with me for a number of hours speaking to members of the public. And also we've been with local authority housing and an asset team where we've been identifying problem areas and agreeing work required for resolution. We've also had increased police patrols carried out in areas identified as experiencing violence and disorder. An example of that can be seen up there where we have the police officers down at Rankin Gate. We really have experienced unprecedented levels of disorder, which we're getting a grip of. I hope you'll agree with me on that. On to the next slide, please. Utilise mainstream and social media to appeal to young persons and their parents and guardians to take responsibility for their actions, and also to try to prevent misinformation, which we have had to deal with as well through various social media platforms. British Transport Police have assisted us with weekend action plans targeting those attending our towns in Clydesdale intent on causing problems, and that has been successful in killing them back to where they came from. We've carried out joint visits with our anti-social investigation team, in particular Michelle Furness, issuing warnings to persistent offenders and giving advice to parents on how to deal with their problematic children. We've also had youth engagement in association with street level, and we've also had, you'll see up in the picture there, it's local officers playing or trying to play football with local youths. Not any injuries reported either from it, which was good. But these kids have had a real positive response from some of the youths involved, and some of them haven't come to attention as much since, and that's something we'll continue to do and promote over the coming year. In relation to violence, we robustly target violent individuals through appropriate use of our crop search powers, which have been high across Clydesdale. And we literally identify violent individuals in our meetings, and the boss, from the boss, it comes down from ourselves as the management team who make sure that getting about. There has been a recent reduction in incidents of disorder across Clydesdale. However, we won't stop and will continue our focus on reducing the violence and disorder over this coming year. If you could move on to the next slide, please. Serious organised crime and substance-induced harm. Along with Lanarkshire Division CID and Proactive Crime Team, our local response, community and priority policing teams have continued to target those engaging in serious criminality and causing harm to our communities through illegal supply of controlled drugs and other forms of criminality, including fraud, theft and violence. The strategy we've used across Clydesdale is in line with our national strategy, as you'll see up there, which is divert. In Clydesdale, we've tried to focus on redirecting at-risk individuals away from crime and signposting them to support services, rehab programmes and community outreach initiatives. And we have a lot of good groups working across the area to do that. Disrupt. We've looked to disrupt networks of organised crime by conducting intelligence-led operations, collaborating with local agencies and using technology to intercept criminal activities. Detect. Very important part of the strategy is our officers have prioritised gathering intelligence and evidence, employing various police tactics and conducting thorough investigations to identify key players and their operations. Deter. This strategy has been carried out through visible policing, community engagement and education campaigns, raising the awareness about the risk of substance abuse and the consequences of criminal behaviour. Something that we do put across in our schools initiative for close to the kids. We'll continue to work closely with communities community organisations, schools, NHS and local authority services to address these issues, foster trust and build a safer environment within Clydesdale. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So that, believe it or not, is an example of a cannabis cultivation within a farm in Carnwath linked to serious and organised crime. That's just one. There's 2 containers within that. And as I say, it's linked to serious and organised crime. I won't say too much more about it, other than there was 10 kilograms of cannabis that were recovered, approximately £30,000 worth. And that's being a farm, you can see that that's a continuous turnover. So it's quite a serious disruption we've had of that particular organised crime group. But that's replicated across a number of different areas, which you'll see if you come to the next slide, please. Acquisitive crime, such as theft by housebreaking, theft by opening locked past places, shoplifting, fraud and other dishonesty offences represent another policing priority which we have again targeted within Clydesdale. We have looked to deter potential offenders through proactive policing strategies such as increased patrols in high crime areas and community engagement. We have focused on intelligence gathering to identify crime patterns and target criminal networks. We have endeavoured to conduct timely investigations and, utilising forensic techniques, have apprehended many offenders and recovered stolen property. We have carried out public awareness campaigns through face-to-face inputs, local press and social media to educate residents and businesses on crime prevention methods and making Clydesdale a safer place. Can you move on to the next slide, please? So the examples you see there, and I've got one of the pictures there, that's literally just a sticker, and it's not for government for us to stick in any of your cars. It's been handed out this year to HGVs and to agricultural vehicles, etc., that shouldn't be on the roads at night. And it's just to remind our officers who are on patrol to give them a stop, make sure there's a legitimate purpose for it. That's part of our crime prevention. The other part relates to it, probably links into serious organised crime as well. That was vehicles seized from a farm in West Mahago, which was operating as a kind of local chop shop. And that's a stolen Range Rover that's there. There was 3 vehicles seized in a warrant turn on that premises, 2 of which were stolen, confirmed stolen, and 1 with a stolen engine. So there was a male arrested and reported for reset. We move on to the next one, please. Very much. Road safety. We have used our road accident statistics, reported incidents, and engaged with community groups, elected members, and relevant South Lanarkshire Council departments to identify problematic roads and locations across Clydesdale. And I know that some of you around the table have been in contact with me about different areas in your own constituencies that we've targeted. So community policing teams in association with our divisional traffic officers have subsequently carried out speed checks and roadblocks. Our strategy has been to engage, educate, encourage and enforce at all times, promoting road safety and responsible use of the road network. We have also raised with South Lanarkshire Council Roads Department, suggesting environmental improvements and other physical measures to improve safety. The examples you can see up there was speed checks carried out in Frankerton and Colburn, which were successful for that period. You obviously appreciate that I rely on you guys, the local councillors, to come to me with any problem areas, and we'll ensure that these areas are policed. So it'll be yourself or Stuart, you've spoken about a number of different areas down the constituency. So I'm sure you're all aware of the work that we are carrying out in relation to road safety. The next slide, please. Public protection. Our officers within Clydesdale are committed to protecting our most vulnerable and robustly policing those engaging in sexual, domestic and hate crimes. We have strict governance procedures around these crime types, and where identified, they are discussed and immediately allocated to the most appropriate resource for inquiry. And the boss does look for a very fast turnover and update on these things, I can assure you. Our response and community policing teams are supported by specialist CID officers to assist with investigations and advise on safeguarding and preventative measures. Throughout the last year, we have carried out educational campaigns to raise awareness in relation to online crimes and personal safety. If you go to the next slide, please. We have attended regular multi-agency meetings. That's just an example of the different agencies that help us out. So we worked with these agencies, and carried out regular meetings in relation to the management of offenders and vulnerable individuals within our community. And these include like MAPA, and you'll see we have HOS, etc., fire service and education boards, etc. Move on to the next slide, please. How we can put it into action. That is an example of one of our officers attending someone's door with a big red key. And that is in relation to domestic abuse day of action. We had 2 days very recently in Clydesdale. 9 persons were arrested, 7 persons charged with domestic related offences, and 9 arrest warrants were executed regarding domestic abuse. So we are certainly on top of those who are committing these types of crime within the Clydesdale area. If you move on to the next slide, please. Okay. So our management team are committed to training and developing officers to ensure that they are ready and equipped to deliver on their 2030 vision and objective of making Clydesdale a safe and desirable place to work and live. In this regard, over the past year, our officers have attended a variety of training courses, including officer safety training, digital evidence sharing, so that capability is new and improved, streamlined evidence sharing system, where we can actually don't need to even go out and get the stuff, we can get it sent to us online for people who have doorbells, etc., and CCTV footage, which we've quite successfully rolled out within the area. We've had public order training, CBRN training, which is chemical, biological, radiological and nuclear for any threats like that. Fortunately, we haven't had any of these, and we'll touch wood when we say that we'll continue, hopefully never to experience that. We've had taser training and hate crime awareness, as well as quad, bike and pedal bike training to ensure our officers are mobile and visible out in their communities. So you can see the variety of work and things that we've done across Clydesdale in relation to serving our community, and we look forward to another year of serving the Clydesdale community, and I welcome the opportunity to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Sarah and Kenny. That was very helpful for the presentation there. I'll invite any questions. I have got a couple of comments I'd like to make myself. I'll start with them because I found you extremely helpful and contactable. I mean, we don't always get a phone number, I must admit, and you must. I know you're involved sometimes, even as your phone, we don't know that, and we're calling you obviously, but I'm going to be good. You have been my worship, and sure everybody else has shared the same experience, and there has been a lot of instances, and more Lanark than anybody else in my ward, they shoplifting, had a licence premise that you managed to take the licence off them, which would be quite good and helpful and send the right message, I think.
You nearly tried out patrol one day, I remember. You nearly tried out patrol one day.
That's right. So, I mean, you've confiscated lots of stuff for the youth, because we used to show the pictures of table, liquor and baked beeps and things like that. The only thing that I would say that, and I know you have a difficulty with this one, but the electric scooters are something that come up all the time, and it really is quite, and I think it's sometimes it's kids, but mainly it's adults doing drug runs basically, and that's dangerous, and people are really concerned about that. Every group I go to, that's the kind of thing I hear.
We have seized these scooters and will continue to do so. However, when there's a policy wouldn't be, it's not safe to pursue that, being that areas normally they're riding on the scooters, we've got members of the public walking, we've got, and they're a real problem for us. I'm not going to tell you lies, they're very difficult to deal with. They're very fast as well, so there obviously are safety concerns with that, but we do seize them where we have the opportunity to do so, and we'll continue to do that.
Do you seize them and keep them?
Yeah.
You can do that.
We can do that.
That's good. That's good, thanks. Does anybody else have any questions or comments they want to make?
Questions are taking too much time up. Just quickly, how many speed runs have we got in Lanarkshire? What speed
runs?
Well, I was thinking.
I think there's one to be used. What? it's more a force resource. So we get them brought into our area. We've been very successful in getting them brought to our area. And we use all the analytical product that we have. We've got a very good team of analysts in Lanarkshire division. So we utilise information from them, and it's basically where it's needed most that it's deployed. I would be lying if I said I knew exactly how many we had.
Okay.
I'll find out for you and I'll get back to you.
And I mean, I would guess if there's one available for South Lanarkshire, that would be it.
Yeah.
So when we actually people which you have at Hankerton, etc., but I can't stay there all day. It can be counterproductive anyway. We're just about to tell people, look, this is how many times.
We have had the van in fact. We have had the van this year.
I appreciate it, you did that, you did it as a particular point, and to use the little kind of what would you call it? That little bench that we put in for that, and then people say no, it's illegal, we can't use that. There's no sidelines. I do have to say, the roads department will not ask you. I mean, I have asked the roads department, so I now have to come, to you and think, let's get one there. Just about everything else, I'm pleased. I mean, you're obviously thin on the ground, and probably not all that well supported by the rest of the justice system. But in general, things seem to work okay, apart from these things that go wrong. So I'm pleased that you are doing something about electric scooters, etc. I think there's worse places than Lanarkshire for it.
Yeah.
People riding on the pavement, and all the problems, but good to see things happening from that. But still, I can't think of any bad experience really with police, in this term. That's 3 years now. There was one at the beginning, you did deal with it, right? So, and it was serious harassment of householders by youth. And so it was the one that put them up to it. And I was there with the interview with the householders. And I mean, they weren't elderly, but they weren't young. Really seemed to be saying, well, you're safe as long as you stay in your house. And that really, I didn't like that. Well, I did deal with it. So
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're referring to. And we dealt with that quite quickly. We did robust to it, and we engaged with the schools as well. It wasn't just a sole group we give them a role. We actually worked with the schools to get the kids that were involved in it. We speak to them and make sure they understood, because they are still kids, really, and sometimes education is the best weapon for us to actually let them know what their behaviour, what effect their behaviour is having in the community. And if it was their grand that they were perpetrating that behaviour against, or their parents, then they've got to understand that their behaviour has a sometimes disproportionate effect on other residents. But with that particular one, I'm touched with when I say that, we haven't had anything since.
yeah, no, it's a fantastic one in the junction. I don't know how you dealt with that, but a young person well under the age of criminal responsibility. Well, there was real racist stuff. And I think one visit from the police, which I didn't think they would do. That seemed to resolve it. Don't know how you did it. Thanks.
Any comments? That's fine. I didn't get too many questions then.
It's not too bad. I'm sorry you're getting money later.
Thank you very much. You can leave now, yes. Thank you much for important to do, I'm sure.
Thank you. Just
Thanks very much.
I tried some years ago, I got my number, if there's anything. Just get in contact with me, I'll do the best.
Thank you very much.
Right, thank you. Cheers.
So we'll move on to number 4 in the agenda, which is going to be water presentation. So if you invite Claire Gordon, field social work resources to speak, and she's on remotely. Thank you.
Many thanks, Chair, and thanks very much for the invite today. I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Claire Borden. I am a fieldwork manager in Justice Social Work
Claire,
Services.
could I just stop you a minute, because we don't really hear you properly in here. Just give us a minute.
Apologies.
I think there's a volume for us.
What, got the wrong button? Yeah, that's it.
Oh no, that's you. Try again, Claire, thanks. Oh, no,
Does that
education.
sound better?
Right, yes, on you go.
Yes, apologies. As I say, my name is Claire Borden. I am one of the fieldwork managers in Justice Social Work Services, and I, since January, have had the remit in terms of overseeing our unpaid work services and have been asked today to share a presentation to give an overview in terms of the unpaid work service that's been committed to in the Clydesdale area over the period of the past year. So I have a number of slides and an opportunity for questions towards the end, and hopefully I'll be able to answer those for members. So in terms of the aims of the presentation today is to provide the councillors with some data in relation to the number of unpaid work hours completed across the South Lanarkshire area between July and June in terms of 24-25. We also want to highlight some of the recent work we've undertaken with the team across the Clydesdale community and give some pictures and visuals in terms of some of the work that's been undertaken in the area. We also want to provide an opportunity for any comments and questions, and we have the link towards the end in terms of any future referrals that people would want to make to our unpaid work services also. To give details round about the data capture in relation to community payback orders and unpaid work activity. So over the period of July 2024 to June 2025, we have had 743 community payback orders imposed in the South Lanarkshire area. In relation to unpaid work and new hours of unpaid work that has been added as a result, we have 97,499 hours that have been added over that time period. During that time period, the team have been successful in terms of supporting individuals to complete 62,633.3 hours of unpaid work activity across South Lanarkshire. Referrals in terms of locality area are broken down. The Hamilton locality has received 146 during that time period, with Clydesdale referring 100 jobs, East Kilbride has 66, Cambuslang and Rutherglen combined has 80, which has given us a total of 392 referrals in for appropriate tasks and actions to be completed by unpaid work across the local authority area. I want to give some examples of some of the unpaid work that has taken place in the community. So I've got some visuals and some pictures of the before and after work in terms of some of the tasks that have been undertaken in recent times. This is one of the bridges in terms of that was created in the unpaid work workshop and is now in what I understand is one of the local gardens and is being provided in the Clydesdale area. We also have pictures here in terms of Abington and the community group bench installation that had taken place there, and I think a general tidy up of that area and the installation of a new bench. We've also done some work in Briarbank and Les Mahago, and this is evidence just now in terms of some garden work which was done in a communal flat area and where the team had went in terms of tidying that up for the people who were living within that block. This is pictures of a tenancy in relation to someone who I understand was actually being discharged from hospital and was moving into a new tenancy in the Clydesdale area. There was a request by the team to go into the tenancy and work on that in terms of painting and decorating and getting that ready for the individual being discharged from hospital. So these are some of the before and after pictures in relation to the work that was undertaken in the community. This is followed on in terms of some of the work that was there before and how that has been left as a result of the unpaid work team having attended at that tenancy, and there were a lot of thanks from the person who was involved in terms of moving in there afterwards. This is some work we're doing in relation to Elvenfoot. So tree maintenance is some work that's been undertaken by unpaid work, and there'll be further slides as we move on as well that talks about the impact in terms of environmental work we're contributing to, and particularly the planting of trees in and around the South Lanarkshire area. So these are some pictures in terms of some of the work that has been undertaken in Elvenfoot in terms of the trees that have been created and supported there. Got a little slide here in relation to the wood workshop. So where possible, we aim to use reclaimed wood to build items within the workshop that can then be provided to areas of the local community. This includes mud kitchens, buddy benches and birdhouses which have been donated to local charities, groups, schools and nurseries. And these are a few pictures of some of the things that they've been able to create. So this is one of the mud kitchens that have been provided in the local area in terms of supporting the young people to access this in nurseries and schools. We also have a dedicated wellbeing group and a young persons group providing a service to our 16 to 25-year-old age group. What we looked to do was establish to provide additional support to individuals where there may have been additional complex needs or vulnerabilities and give them an avenue to complete unpaid work in a different way. Young Persons Group has been a dedicated resource as well for younger people who receive unpaid work and helping them undertake dedicated tasks across South Lanarkshire. We look at wellbeing and welfare related activities and tasks that will benefit the community, as well as provide educational courses and activities that will help enable people moving forward when they leave the service. Examples of some of the work that's taken place over the past year includes money matter support, work with Quit Your Way, which is an NHS health event looking at people who are vaping or smoking, and also mouth cancer awareness sessions with NHS. We also in the winter time took a snowed under programme forward with our young persons group and our wellbeing group, and that focused on people's mental health and their sleep patterns and the impact on health. We've also undertaken a number of health walks and supported people in terms of attendance at Keep Well nursing appointments. And we have also conducted a REHAS food and hygiene course with 4 service users completing this over a period of 6 weeks in December 2024. We've also supported young people to engage with the fire service in terms of the SHIELD, Home Fire Safety and Road Safety programme, and that's been very well received by the young people on unpaid work. As mentioned previously, we also have tree planting and joint community work ongoing throughout the authority area in relation to the planting of new trees. This is some of the examples of some of the work that's undertaken, and what we've done is use the community garden and the garden that's dedicated at Auchentibber Resource Centre to create fruit and vegetables that are then contributing towards charities, but also being used in a REHAS course in terms of completing that education programme with some of our wellbeing group members. And these are some of the end results and the end picture in terms of what they've been able to take from the garden and produce towards the end. This is an example of some of the crops that they've had over the past year in terms of their apples and potatoes and some of their fruit and vegetables which they were able to utilise during the course and also distribute to other areas across the community in terms of charitable groups that were able to use this. We also have a Positive Futures group which generally commenced in 2023 and it's facilitated by our unpaid work case managers. The aim of this group is to provide participants with a positive group work environment with a focus on physical activity, nutrition and awareness and developing ways that they can connect to their community. Each group session includes a physical activity and involvement in perhaps a sport or group activity and also the involvement of outside speakers so that people are able to come in and take part in the group and provide information, advice and guidance in relation to key areas that the group are interested in. We also utilise our kitchen learning hub in terms of the nutrition elements and cooking skills and meal preparation, which enables the group to sit together for a lunch that everybody's contributed to. And again, that brings in the stuff from the garden in terms of soup making and ways that we can help people understand how we can utilise the garden in terms of the programmed work and provide everyone with lunch together. These are some of the photos that have been taken in terms of some of the activities that they've done and then what they've created together in terms of a lunch and a group lunch that they do towards the end of the group session. And this generally will take people back to the Auchentibber Resource Centre and use of the Kitchen Learning Hub is available there for everyone to collaborate in terms of how they would take forward lunch and provide for one another. We've had some feedback from the Positive Future group members and some people had been telling us that when they were struggling they found different places to turn as a result of involvement in the group, and also that they have been able to sign up to things like additional courses to aid employment when they leave unpaid work services. We also had someone comment about the impact of going out a walk in terms of relieving stress and how that helped them develop a more positive outlook on life in terms of the learning that they gleaned from others in and around the group and from the group facilitators. We have remote unpaid work projects that are ongoing, and this relates to work that we are offering in terms of survival blankets that are provided to homeless charities and rag rugs, which we're also providing out to charities. We've also introduced diamond art, which is also a piece of artwork that can be taken home and completed by an individual, which can then contribute to different local charities, nurseries, care homes and animal rescue centres are the places where these effectively the outcomes of those remote projects are then taken out into the community by the unpaid work groups. We've also supported people in new tenancies in terms of some of the work that's been able to contribute from an unpaid work basis. I've got some posters here that have been made up. So effectively it's crisp packets that create the survival blankets, and people have a kit where they take that home and they create the survival blankets and bring those back so that these can be distributed to local charities and homeless placements across South Lanarkshire. We also have the rag rugs, and you see the picture there in terms of one of the animal trust centres where the rag rugs were taken, so that provides some support in terms of SSPCA, local nurseries in schools and other community projects, and these are ongoing tasks that are taking place across South Lanarkshire. This is some evidence of the diamond art. So each of the little pixels you can see here is an individual diamond piece that is placed onto a canvas in terms of creating artwork, which has been distributed again across different charities and different local groups across South Lanarkshire to create home and welcome environments across different placements. And we continue to offer this work as remote placements for those completing some of their unpaid work where this is appropriate. Activities that we've been doing with local partners, so unpaid work with a number of different partners, and I've already mentioned a few, but particularly NHS Lanarkshire, Clyde Climate Forest, and obviously the fire service. We also work with Health Walks and the Health Improvement Team in South Lanarkshire to ensure that we are offering a variety of different activities and opportunities in terms of connectivity with our local areas, and Clydesdale being one. We've given some evidence here in terms of the work we're doing with Clyde Climate Forests. So Clyde Climate Forest are looking to plant 18 million trees in both urban and rural parts of Glasgow and City region in the Central Belt over the next decade, and their vision is to plant the right trees in the right places to help recover and thrive in terms of nature. Alongside unpaid work, today we have helped plant 3,000 trees across the South Lanarkshire area in terms of unpaid work, and we are also doing work in relation to maintaining tree saplings in our garden area, as well as growing these from seed and utilising aspects of our kitchen garden element to make sure that we're able to successfully contribute to Clyde Climate Forest's aims and goals over the next 10 years. Kitchen Garden commenced in 2021, and we had the support at that time of an educational gardener. So the Kitchen Gardener now occupies the health area in Auchentibber, and we have a polytunnel and raised beds now to be able to grow flower patches and have an annual harvest effectively of different fruits and vegetables. And as mentioned, we share that with homeless projects, and we do cooking within our kitchen learning hub, and we also operate a soup programme in the summer and the winter periods connected to each of our different groups. During this reporting period, we've been working in the garden to prepare for winter, and the growing session for that started in March in 2025. We've also received great support from Castlebank Horticultural Centre to improve our knowledge and increase the number of products that we're growing in the kitchen garden, so the hope that we can distribute that wider. So again, these are some pictures of some of the things that they've been able to do over this year in terms of the Auchentibber kitchen garden. Unpaid Work Laundry project continues, and this is an emergency laundry provision provided to vulnerable adults and families, and it can be made via referral through social work resources. So what this means is that we have laundered things like football kits for South Lanarkshire Leisure, we have looked at towels for holistic and therapeutic treatment for charities, and we've also done ironing and clothing work for individual charity shops. Laundry Project has also worked in partnership with a number of schools and community groups to launder uniforms and provide these to clothing banks and schools so that can be provided to the new cohort in terms of school. We've also looked at graduation gowns and graduation ceremonies and done some work in the laundry in relation to setting that up. We also had the annual winter jacket appeal in 2024, which saw over 200 winter jackets being donated and laundered by unpaid work services and then distributed across 10 South Lanarkshire schools, including Law Primary, Muiredge Primary, Stonelaw High and Blacklaw Primary School. In June 2025, Unpaid Work also undertook their annual school uniform project, where all South Lanarkshire Council schools were invited to participate in the project, and that involved us laundering a number of different previously pre-loved uniforms and ironing those and being able to get them back to the school uniform banks so that these could be donated to families in need. We also have recently taken part in a new community murals project, which has involved people from unpaid work being involved in socials focus sessions with Dr. Joanne Miller from the University of the West of Scotland. What that has enabled is a focus to be taken in terms of a mural artwork piece, which is going to be added to Motherwell Police Office holding area. And what that is with the view to create a mural that directs people towards and signposts people towards active services that can offer support advice and guidance and link people in with ways out of the justice system. And the team at Unpaid Work have helped to provide themes and given experiences and stories that have fed into how this mural will be transported effectively onto the walls of the police office, and the hope that these will help people in the future who maybe find themselves there. We have a picture here in terms of November 2024, where we received a visit from the Cabinet Secretary from Justice and Home Affairs, Angela Constance. This was a visit that promoted the work being undertaken in unpaid work in South Lanarkshire and discussed what we were doing in the area in terms of how we contribute back to the community from those who have been involved in the justice system. So that was a really great visit and really good feedback in terms of what we were able to do and the work that we were aiming to take forward over the next few years were discussed there. In conclusion, and I know that's been a whistle-stops tour of all things unpaid work, but we would welcome any feedback and opportunities to work further with local community members and councillors in terms of work that we feel would benefit areas of our local community. I've put in the presentation, which I'll share around, the link and the direct link to the referral form, which can be found, that can be shared with any interested parties or members of the public that feel that they would want us to consider a task or a particular activity that they would want us to do within the local community. So we welcome that opportunity in terms of being able to assess work that we can get involved in and hopefully promote the benefits in terms of what unpaid work can offer to our local communities. Last slide is just my contact details. If anyone would want to contact me in relation to any matters relating to justice social work services or unpaid work, please feel free to do so. And I would absolutely welcome any questions or comments in relation to the unpaid work services in the presentation that I've done today. So thanks so much, and I'll stop sharing now.
Thank you, Claire. That was a very interesting presentation. And I know from a personal point of view that you've done quite a bit in my area, and it's nice to see that Castlebank have also paid you back by helping you, so it's a two-way street here. And I know you've recently fed some force that the council placed some slats in, the unpaid work came out and painted them, and the local feedback on Facebook was fantastic, so that was really good to see that. So has anybody else got any questions on that to add?
One short question. The teams, some of them are, trained and can use reasonable power tools like trimmers and edge trimmers, etc. They're okay for that. We just thought there might have been a certain risk there, so we couldn't be involved in it. Thanks.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thank you very much. That was really a very interesting presentation. The different things that is involved is quite phenomenal. Because if you sit in different committees, you hear different things from different points of view, etc. And one of the ones that came close to where I was one day was that people were not turning up to do their the hours that were prescribed to do. But I suppose that will be, you'll just be reporting that, and then that's for somebody else to take up. But the question I really have is, if somebody's given, I'll just use 8 years unpaid service, then the different things that you were describing there, and I actually think it's a good thing if you can educate people and make them see, is that all taken into account and take off their time? Like if they go to the classes that you described and come to the sessions that you described, and take up from cooking or whatever else, is there two separate things? Is that a voluntary thing that they want to do to improve themselves, or is that taking over the time that they have to explain, basically?
So thank you for that question. There are two separate components of each order. So there is an element of unpaid work to the benefit of the community, but also an opportunity for involvement in what we call other activity. So a proportion of the hours can be going towards things that are educational in nature, and these are the programmes that we spoke more about today. So everyone will get the opportunity, should they wish to engage with an other activity element, that opportunity is provided to them, and we have a suite of options available to people in terms of what they can engage with. Some people choose that they would prefer to be out in the community, effectively in terms of out doing a shift, as we would call it, and then they won't want to engage in other activity. But recently we've had significant buy-in in terms of more educational elements and people choosing to do a proportion of their hours doing those sorts of things, as well as the work that they're doing out within the community as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was trying to get at, maybe passionate group with it. But I'll just use this. If it's 8 years, just for talk's sake, is it a mix and match? You just couldn't take all your time to sit in a room doing, I was in a mix and match where, yeah, education, I think, is the way forward. You want to, you know, try and get further education at an age, or learn how to cook and maybe get in your kitchen. You know, whatever it is you want to do. But what I was actually saying is, are you allowed just to do your whole 8 years? I'm just using a figure like that. Or do you need to proportion that out? So much to do that, so much to do that.
It would be dependent on the person's circumstances and what's specific to their order, but generally the rule of thumb would be that it would be 30 hours total. Off of their hours would be other activity based, and the others would be work that's completed to the benefit of the community.
Thank you. That's what I was thinking.
That's clear. I don't see any other hands. That's like in the room here. And that's but of course, Councillor Marsh.
Sorry, I've just a lead question. Thanks for your indulgence, Chair. I'm wondering if you have, you know, the sort of positive destination data of for the young people that have gone through the unpaid work service, in terms of what their future looks like, and you know, do they go on to achieve employment that similar to the activities that they've been undertaking, or you know, college? Or I'm wondering, I know it might not be absolutely primarily part of your service, but do you have that data?
It's been very difficult to access that data, and that's something we're really keen to be able to effectively track thereafter, in terms of what impact has it had in terms of particularly educational routes that we've opened to people. So we have inquired about whether or not there's an element of research, and some of the work that we've done with Joanne Miller has looked at that, but it would take the person having to agree and give permission in terms of that ongoing contact after they get out with the service. We anecdotally receive contact from a number of people who've previously used the service, who will generally call up the case managers and say, I've been successful in getting that job that we spoke about, or I've started college. So we do have anecdotal information, but nothing that has been a consistent way that we could measure or report on. But it is something that we're actively thinking about. Are there ways and means that we could enable that contact to take place, and if people would agree to share information with us about what their journey after their involvement with unpaid work services have been. But to date, that's been a big challenge, I've got to say, in terms of being able to follow that through and get that feedback on a regular basis from people.
Thanks, Claire. Just maybe it's your opportunity. I know I have attended Auckland Timber a few times. I know you're having an open day shop, and I know I can't make it. But if you remember it, you could maybe remind the councillors that are here today when it is, and you know, it is worthwhile having a look at your kitchen, your garden, and speaking to the people who are attending the kitchen, etc.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for the prompt, because that completely went out of my head. Yeah, so we are doing a feedback week at Unpaid Work, where we are going to spend an entire week looking at how we receive feedback from partners, service users, and people who are connected to the Unpaid Work team. So as part of that week, we're doing an open evening event on the 2nd of September. So the team are in the process of generating leaflets, which will be sent out to everyone, offering an invite. I think we already have a number of people who have agreed to come and attend, and the plan would be that you would be taking a kind of guided tour around the gardens and the area at Auckland Timber, and also updated round about the different work that's taking place and some of the feedback that we've received from key beneficiaries, and also from those who have been coming into contact with their services. So everyone's welcome. Please do spread the word, and if people aren't able to make it and want to arrange an alternative time, then please do get in touch with me, and we'll make sure that opportunity is provided to people.
Thanks, Claire. That's helpful. I don't see anybody else asking any questions, so you're free to leave. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you so much, Chair.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So we're on to item 5 on the agenda, which is the annual housing and homeless update. To invite the panel and the area housing manager to speak. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for inviting me along today. Also, we're here to give an update on housing performance update for the years 24-25. The overview is just really highlighting key issues that we've had. Just giving a background, obviously we are should declare an emergency housing emergency for in the 12th of June 24. And that was just in response to a sustained increase in the demand for a service. And that was for the years 2020, 21, 22 and 23. And it was where we experienced 28% of an increase in the number of people applying for council for assistance due to homelessness, with a 38% increase in the number of people reported by the councils for homelessness, and 101% increase in the backlog of urgent homeless households awaiting to be housed with South Lanarkshire Council. So the report that I'm going through today just sets out the areas where we're going to look at the current stock profile and the increase in supply, allocations in lets, management and also homelessness. So section 4, as of the 31st of March 2025, the Lanarkshire Council 4,971 residential properties within Clydesdale, and that does represent 19% of the overall housing stock. So the table at 4.2 just breaks down the properties that we've got. So Mainstream we're just short of 4,500. We've got 289 amenity properties and 185 sheltered properties within South Lanarkshire, this Clydesdale story. And then the table at 4.3, that just breaks down the properties into bedroom size. So you can see from the bed sits right into the sort of bedroom properties and how many actual properties we have within Clydesdale. As of March 2025, 89 properties were born, and that was representing 2% of the total housing stock in the division and 23% of the council bonds across South Lanarkshire. And work continues to ensure that bonds are turned around really quickly so that we can get them let and rehouse again. So through the Council Affordable Housing Supply Programme, work is underway to increase the number of council homes available in Clydesdale. And during 24-25, the 60 existing homes were purchased through the open market purchase scheme, helping to identify needs and priority areas. These acquisitions added 6 one-bedroom properties, 6 two-bedroom properties, and 4 three-bedroom properties as well in Clydesdale. Any new build sites for development in the area will be included in the annual update of the Strategic Housing Investment Plan. The next updates to June 23 this year. So moving on just to the allocations and the rates within Clydesdale. So for 24-25, with 414 lets in Clydesdale, and that accounted for 21% of all lets in South Lanarkshire. And the table at 5.2 just breaks down those lets so you can see how many bed sits we had, 1 bedroom through to 4 bedroom properties. The average number of days to let properties in Clydesdale is 15.24 days, which is lower than the South Lanarkshire average 80.87. So that means we're turning our bodies around quicker than the rest of South Lanarkshire, which is good. Performance in relation to the allocation from lets alongside stock provision and letting targets, that's also reported to the Housing and Technical Resources Committee as part of the annual updates to the letting plans. Moving on to section 6 is just around rent management, and through its rent management approach, housing services aims to maximise the income collection performance. In Clydesdale, we had 100.4% of rent due collected during 24-25, which was slightly higher than the average of South Lanarkshire. Gross rent arrears, including current and former rent arrears in Clydesdale, was 6.73%, which is lower than the average for South Lanarkshire at 7.10%. And during 24-25, with no instances of eviction for rent arrears. That doesn't mean we've not progressed people for court action, it's just mean we've not actually evicted anybody for the rent arrears in that period. Performance in relation to rent management is reported twice per year. The Housing and Technical Resources Committee through the Resource Plan and annually to the Scottish Housing Regulators through the Scottish Social Housing Charter. So moving on to section 7 in regards to homelessness.
So during 24-25, Clydesdale had 361 homeless presentations, accounting to 15% of South Lanarkshire's total of 2,467. As of the 31st of March 2025, the number of households awaiting an offer of housing in Clydesdale was 136, and that accounted for 9% of South Lanarkshire's total of 1,543. This is an 11% decrease on the number of homeless households awaiting their offer of housing as of March 2024. As the same period, there were 86 households in temporary accommodation in Clydesdale, accounting for 11% of South Lanarkshire's total of 798 households. Of the 86 households, 18 contain a total of LGBT dependent children, and this represents 7% of the 441 children in temporary accommodation across South Lanarkshire at year-end. And during 24-25, the average time to close a homeless case in Clydesdale was 196 days, and this is 31% more than South Lanarkshire's average at 285 days. During 24-25, the repeat homelessness rate in Clydesdale measured was made within a year of the use of housing was 7.2%, and 36% higher than the repeat homeless rate for the whole of South Lanarkshire. The reason why Clydesdale is higher is because we have a lower amount of people presenting, so that increases our percentage of repeat homelessness. So we do, albeit it's not a large number of repeat homelessness, because our people presenting is lower, it kind of skews that average. And during 87.6% of households sustained their tenancy for more than 12 months following a period of homelessness, which is lower than the South Lanarkshire Texas sustainment rate for homeless households of 91.3%. Support to assist tenants in sustaining their tenancy is provided by the local housing office, including through the use of dedicated tenancy relief fund. With regards to the next step, housing services will continue to manage their housing stock and support tenants in their tenancies across the Lanarkshire, across Clydesdale. Updates and performance across the service will be reported to Housing and Technical Resources Committee. A housing and homeless update will also be provided for Clydesdale to do the committee annually. And thank you for listening to my report.
Thanks, Donna. Anybody has any questions? We'll probably ask as we go along, but here's David. David Sheeran, thanks.
Thank you, Chair. That was a really informative report, lots of detail in it, which I appreciate. The only question I would ask is, next steps, do you have any figures on any new builds for the Clydesdale area? And I know that's always difficult to find the sites and progress them, but could you give us an idea of where we are with new builds and what's required in Clydesdale? Thanks.
The only new build that's in the ship we have in Leslie Eagle, but that's still, we've not got a date for that to start. From memory, I think there was about 20 units going to be in Leslie Eagle. There's also Link Housing Association are planning to build at Gormire Road in Curluck, and I think there's, I don't know if it's 50 or 80, there is quite a large number of units in that, but I can get that information to you, Councillor Shearer, and give you the exact details of that.
If you could, that'd be great. Thanks.
I'll get it helpful if you put it to the whole I can do that. That's me.
There'll be a new ship anyway to say between times. You did present, or somebody presented, I think it's Sean Egan presented what the ship was for last year. So how many is that this year? I don't know. I'll get that supplemented. I know one, for instance, it's a housing association. They completed and let the houses on Blacksfield Road and got a living in the sort of finish. So that was where it was in the bargain with the Royal Oak as well. And that's so I think that's been good. Nobody else get any?
Yeah, I was going to say thanks, Palmer, for the report. It's really good statistics on where we are, where we need to be. I was just going to ask about it, similar to what Councillor Shearer asked about the new houses that are proposed. I mean, don't recall, how much were the number of the bedrooms for each for the new ones that were, for example, the 20 in this Mayo, because obviously, just looking at the big problem that I think we all face as councillors is that just the number of the bedrooms on there. But the flats and the houses that we have just isn't enough. The 3-bedroom, we don't have enough of them, and it's such a big challenge. Every other query we get is a housing query. Obviously the number of 3-bedrooms are 61, I think, on here. And that's the big challenge. Are we able to? Will the ship give us a good analysis of actually where we can help with the housing lift? Because that's, I think, where the challenge is.
I'm not sure if the ship will break down for each specific site what type of houses, but I'll have that detail that I can provide with the Clydesdale area. Because obviously we propose when we get a site, we know what our stock is that we base it for properties, so we try and make sure there's a mix of those type of properties in that. For the one in Resident Evil, I think it's 2, 3, or possibly a 4-bedroom on the Resident Evil site.
And we know that back in trouble with your automatic conversions. Oh, my goodness, I had to look for automatic conversions. It was all if you put in, I think it was a 2, Ross was just saying, there's 2 bed, but there's a part there where if it was required, the family then could get a 3-bed without any great harassment. My question is that well, you can't answer because you'll use all this data to see what's required, what would be the best mix, etc. Because house associations don't tend to build bigger houses, but they tend to build two, 1, maybe 2 beds. So that's very handy. But has there been a growth, and I will use anecdotal people from me too, or people who are homeless but not necessarily local homeless, if that makes sense, the way I'm saying to you. So I get people who I was just talking to the councillor the other day and say, well, they had somebody would ask me if they're desperate to come to Caddo. Why would they want to come to Caddo? I think, oh, not rails, but it's donkeys, might on just a little building. So is there a growth in that? Because people's perception is that there's a growth of people just living in the area in Scotland or north, south, whatever. But we're not putting people back out to there. And also did when the prisons get emptied, did that cause us any great concerns in this area? Because I know there was concerns that if you put people in the prison, then we have a duty to try and see the house there. So did that cause us any great concerns?
On your first question, just about people moving in and out with the area, every person that presents as homeless once they've got the homeless decision, a personal housing plan is carried out with them, and that's discussing with them where do you want to live. Because we're in a housing emergency, they can't be restricted to say, I just want a certain area. We need to say tangibly. If it's people that are not from Clydesdale, we are really specific to say, can you tell us why you want to live in Clydesdale? Because we do get people just saying, oh, people don't want to say Lanarkshire, but they don't realise we get a house in Abington. So that conversation is hard to say, look, why do you want to live in this area? And to make sure, because the urgent homelessness only get one offer of housing. So if they get that offer and they say, no, I don't want it, if they should look at this, the worst personal housing plan, they can't really say, well, I didn't pick it, because we've had that conversation and noted exactly why you want those areas. So yes, we do get people wanting to move into the area, we do, but those conversations are hard to say, do you realise where this is? Do you realise that it's one of the wee villages that was living with buses and things like that? So they're really clear that if they are moving in the area, that they're aware.
Rather than this, going to get 2 big times.
No, not necessarily. Your other question was on the prison release. One of our responsibilities is to deal with prison discharges. The early release we had that was over the time, we 17 deliberations in total for the whole of South Lanarkshire. We only had 2 that were for the Clydesdale area. and one got a number of housing on the lease, so they moved into the permanent accommodation on the lease, so they didn't have to go down the membership.
Can you, through your chair, can you also lay down yourself and put information? I've been there a long time, but you find that straight down to families more than what we say in the 30 years, where you can find maybe a middle-aged person or a person 50 and above, maybe it's more correct to say middle-aged, anyway, maybe say 50 and above type of thing. For the criminal system, because maybe I think people after 30 years of marriage and just that's it. And then there's a lot going because my husband doesn't have. And then presenting, then there's maybe children presenting because of the following, etc. But to me, it was also a growth of single males, be they whatever age. It seems to be a growth of single males in the system as well, for a whole lot of various different reasons, which doesn't help the situation. It's where maybe all these years ago, one house still people got land, I knew you maybe you can have people 6 houses for one family. That's a healthy situation.
I mean, the majority of the people that homeless are single males. They are, and that's been like that for quite some time.
Well, answer questions into your answers. Julie Marsh, thanks.
Thanks, Chair. There's a couple of questions, and it might actually touch on some of what Eileen's already raised. So the report details, and thank you for that, is a really useful report. Details that the number of days to close a homeless application is 196 days, which is less than the South Lanarkshire average of 285 days. Now, in the housing papers from another committee, then we would routinely see statistics that would tell us the number of days people are remaining in temporary accommodation. And I'm wondering how Clydesdale compares in that way, because I know that the two things will be slightly different. I'm also wondering, even besides that, these are really high numbers of days that people are in a homeless situation. I know they won't necessarily be without a roof for all of that time, and the clock starts from the moment where perhaps a landlord's indicated they wish to sell a property, for example. But I'm wondering what support and communication is ongoing in that time, because it's a really long period of time for people, and I'm aware that the feeling of limbo and not really knowing what's happening when. So I'm wondering what formally the communication and support is put in place for that people going through that terrible time.
In relation to the support that's put in place, everyone that presents as homeless, we do a support needs assessment just to see if we think they need support. Everyone gets the option of support, but certain questions we would say, but we would really recommend that we took support on just based on some of the answers that they're putting. Now, about a third of the cases that present as homeless do take up the housing support. So we have our own housing support officers in each division who provide that support. They've got their own caseload, so they'll provide that support regularly through to the person's house and beyond housing if the support still needs to be in place. If people do have complex needs, we do have an intensive support service that there's a couple of different support services we use that they provide intensive support. So that's over and above our support service. Maybe somebody that needs more than once a week contact, maybe need more contact than that. So we have that facility as well. But that support's there. When someone presents as homeless, they are made aware of how long they'll need to wait in the house. Obviously, that's estimated because depends on what area they're looking for. They could wait longer than other areas. But they are made aware of when that support, when they're expected to get a house. So they're really clear from the outset. Everyone is offered temporary accommodation, and not everyone needs to take temporary accommodation, but everyone is offered temporary accommodation. And any time someone's circumstances change to say, look, I do need temporary accommodation, then we will provide them with temporary accommodation. In relation to your question about the days to close, and I'm just trying to find it again in the report. You're right, that the number of days to close is different to the number of days in temporary accommodation. I can get those figures, I don't have them with me just now, I can get the two separate figures for last year if you want, and I can get that sent out to the group as well.
That would be ideal. I think it's a useful comparison of where we're at. And with your indulgence, Chair, I just had one other point that it's obviously of concern where there's repeat homelessness. But I'm interested to notice that it's nearly double in Clydesdale, and obviously there'll be reasons for that. I'm wondering, you know, the ongoing work to drill down and find out the reasons for that, because I think it's 7.2% is quoted, which is quite significant. And as I say, it might touch on to some of the points that Eileen already raised.
The repeat homelessness is kind of, it's skewed, and because we have lower number of presentations compared to the rest of South Lanarkshire, it can only take 1 or 2 people to do a repeat homeless, which bumps up that percentage. We have done an analysis of our repeat homelessness just to see, is it the same, is it things that we need to be aware of, but it was solely due to our lower number of presentations that it just takes 1 or 2 people to represent, but then bumps our figures up compared to the rest of the areas.
Thanks for that. And yeah, I think it might be useful for future reports to have an end number, and so that and quite an alarming number doesn't you know, can indicate where it's obviously terrible for those individuals, and you'll be working to resolve that. But yeah, to have a statistic that's nearly double everything else without an end number alarms me even more. Thank you.
Well, I do hope we will take back to your staff, but to say very much, but I think it's a very difficult job, absolutely difficult, because it's relentless. You know, it's not something we can get a week with nothing. It's relentless, and I know that. And I'm always surprised. This is just the point that truthfully, a lot of people, if the majority of the people, do not understand that there's not just hundreds of faces just sitting there waiting, and they'll come and speak to you and have a chat. And sometimes they'll tell you, I'm going on the spot. You know, and they then try and say it like that, and you'll be doing it, you just do it so that it's not free work, just like that. You have to take this, that, there. So I think in the circumstances that we're living nowadays, that your staff does a tremendous job, which is absolutely relentless, as I said. And I don't know how you get the message out that you can't even wander away when you come up. So I know how is it listening, because you ever you can. So it is that better. And I think the presentation was good. Forget the information that you said you would say that would be good as well. That's it. Please, thank you. I think if we're going to say we would not just be the same, because I'm already when I contact staff, that I got really good response, are very easy to contact. I don't know if they're having trouble, I'm presuming this calls as they. The other thing that's come across the desk quite often now is the landlords who are selling the houses, and is that on the rise? Because it appears to me to be, and then you maybe get somebody, oh, I've got 6 children and I need a house, and I thought, well, I've got to get one that quick, you know, so that's really quite problematic. But I believe there's maybe a protocol that the landlords are supposed to go through, that they think they can get a quicker sale. No, big help for councillors to have that information, so we could tell the people who are maybe getting made homeless. Actually, it doesn't need to come like that. You can't just put it in sale for next week. So it's just something about that would maybe be quite helpful.
That's obviously we've got an integrated home options team that deal with homeless prevention, and anyone that their landlord has issued a notice to quit to them, we will give them that advice. The landlord does need to take it to a first tier tribunal to put the case forward, and even if they're successful at that point, there is a set period before they can actually evict the tenant. But we give that advice to say you can stay there, but we do get private tenants that just say, oh, I'll just leave. And we do try and say not to, but they do, I think, whether their own choice and they do want to leave. And we do give that full advice, so they're fully informed to say you can stay where you are until it's leave the tribunal and it comes being in.
And roughly, how long does that actually take, from the, serve that notice to them actually probably get in the house? Basically, is it like 3 months, 6 months or longer?
From serving the notice, I think to tribunal it's about 50 odd days, and then they'll give the notice once the chancellor wrote the tribunal, then they have to give them a set period, which I don't know off the top of my head to be.
That would be quite handy for us to know that as well. I know the officers provide that service, but for me, I just think that it would be helpful for me to say something. Don't panic.
That's it.
So, no, that's helpful. Thanks, Pamela. Thanks for your time.
No, sorry, I don't know, that's just.
All right.
Well, your thanks, Chair. Thanks for that report, just have to, keep up as a priority this issue about the Stays Junction, where, before your time, we had a demolition spree because there was no demand, and then we don't have houses even for the people who, have been brought up in the junction. So just to keep that as an ongoing concern. I mean, if one family, and well, you probably know, certainly Nicole will know, unless there's suddenly been found something practically that you're looking for somewhere. On the other hand, I mean, you have, the system has found houses for, well, technically homeless, if that's such a thing. But usually outside the area that they really wanted, even so much so that people come to my door to thank me for getting them a house. No, that's not the way it works. It was there. And slight improvement on the problems of tenants running a business. I don't mean a technical business, but actually, messing the place up and the garden up with stuff. We seem to have a bit of improvement there, and a bit of improvement on houses which were, supposedly tenanted, but there was nobody actually living there. Whatever scam that is, I don't really know. So, we have had some improvements, but certainly if we can somehow get around this problem of not being able to house the people in the junction. And I know it's partly because nobody wants an upstairs house and that sort of thing. I just hope we can keep that up and see some of the ones that have been waiting a long time getting somewhere. But I'll check on them when it's the housing forum next week, 2 weeks. Yeah, thank you.
Charlotte, thanks, Pamela. So if you'd like to leave, let's there you go. Thank you very much. So Kenny, you've been a long way. It's number 6 on the agenda, but just a pizza budget and getting better at that.
Yeah.
Micro grants up in Kenny, the program manager, Unit Enterprise Research 6 months. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Afternoon, councillors. Yeah, after some very substantial reports, you've got one of the briefest reports you'll probably see at this committee, but it's the annual update for participatory budgeting micro grants, and I think this will be brought annually back, so you've got our eyes on the micro grants. So, as you'll all be aware, we've introduced the micro grants, the use of the micro grants from the RBF in 2019. So that's 6 years that it's been running. Micro grant goes to the community councils to administer as £500 grants. So in the year just finished, 17 community councils in the Clydesdale area administered the grants with a total value of 77,331. The process works that they submit their claim and all their information, and then this following year's fund gets given out to them. And at the moment, at the start of July, 14 community councils have been awarded their grants with a total value of 115. The one thing to note is that the Clyde panel, which we administer the fund but makes the decisions, decided to increase the £5,000 per community council to 10,000 for the community councils within their area. And that's essentially the update.
Thanks very much, Kenny. The micro grants are always a sore point from I think the councillors at the end of the day, community council meetings. It makes it quite difficult for them to make decisions on the amounts of money that you come that later when you try to dish out our money. So I will do a question.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. I've read this and we'll pick them up. What's the difference, 5,000 some and the 10,000?
Sure.
I know it's to do with, so you put one lot of money in and another for the other people can do it here.
Yeah, so we administer two funds. We administer the Renewable Energy Fund, which is completely administered by the council. The Clyde Fund, when it was set up, there was a Clyde panel set up, so they make all the decision making on the fund. We administer it, we do all the paperwork, we do all the paper, but they make decisions in terms of that. And they made the decision this year that we wanted to increase the micro grants to £10,000.
Is really Chair. Is there any way where that could have been split to make that road easier? I mean, I assume that runs right.
Yeah.
I get it, and assume,
Yeah.
but somebody else shouldn't that maybe think, how come we spoke about 10 million, we get 5? Just I don't know, or you could say it. So they say 5 and then the next call 5 because of that.
Yeah. They're not, all the 10,000 is coming from their fund. None of it's coming from the Renewable Energy Fund. So it's, it's just a completely different pot.
But quite jealous of the 10,000.
I think I have to.
Explain this difference.
There's two sort of things to this. One thing is it's good, it increases our amount of participatory budgeting, which we have to report the Scottish Government on and that. The other thing is, and the logical next question, which I have already been asked at Community Enterprise pre-agenda, was, could the 5 become 10 for every community council? There isn't enough money.
I'm not asking that.
Yeah, no, I was,
I'm only asking about
yeah.
looks. You can't.
Yeah.
Any guys ask? I thought as it goes in the Clyde area.
No, it's not. Goes to Douglas and Carmichael, doesn't go as far as Lisbon,
Right.
and doesn't go to Lisbon, not in the Clyde. And not, yeah. No,
Shouldn't take up.
It's Blackwood, Kirby Hill, Boghead. Right, yeah. Blackwood, Kirby Hill, Boghead. Or Bogend, it's at the tip, this point, should be Boghead.
Okay. It's not in, it's,
Big 16 at the top.
yeah,
Maybe that's not Clyde.
Okay. That's not Clyde.
No,
No,
it's not.
that's not Clyde. So that's just coming out from there, but yeah. As you say.
Like 5,000 is enough for any community council to do with given the conversations I've heard. This will be wants to be that's my opinion of the community council. But so in participatory budget, what else have we got in our area? From these central funds, because what I've noticed recently is there's council are putting out participatory budgets for veterinaries and Hamilton, and I think, well, why's Clydesdale going to get their say on it? Because surely it's not just the micro.
No, it's not. I report into participatory budgeting report, which should do some land services. I've got participatory budgeting, and and I think community empowerment teams do as well. I could get the overall report and then say, because each of the participatory budgeting sections, I believe, should be coming to the area committees to give an update that's,
Yeah, I mean, we do, when it comes to housing, we've had updates with them, we've done lots of bits here and there, but, what I'm not saying for every, when I see it on Facebook for all the other areas, I'm just waiting for somebody to say to me, how come Hill House is getting 5,000 or 35,000 to, well, where you can feed back into that, whereas I've not seen anything for Clydesdale.
I can get the report, the full participatory budgeting report and get that information.
It just
from
seems that we
that.
haven't had the opportunity to
Yeah.
do that.
I think there is some targeting through the community empowerment team on some of the most deprived areas, so I think sometimes there's targeting and that's done through participatory budgeting. That might be with the Hill House and that sort of
There's
thing.
a huge, we really want to see, because that always happens in Clydesdale where they've got huge numbers of people. They've got huge tracts of land, but a lot of people, but the people still would require.
Yeah.
See, if you broke it down, the person would get whatever,
Yeah.
probably. So it's like everything else. It's easy to go in and do one big, huge area, but it's harder when you try. Get wee bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Thanks, what's
Okay.
Hans, thanks, Kelly. You able to move on, you get to
Okay.
I'll sit outside in future and check through the. So I didn't realise the microgrants were really participatory budgeting. But I mean, just right, two things. One's relevant, and that is this thing about Crawford that they couldn't find the wherewithal to run community council, which is kind of properly done and has to be elected. But we're still finding them with full amount of money for a development group, which really doesn't run under the same kind of restrictions as a community council. And although probably gets them up for it, but I think that's a bit unfair on other communities that manage to keep up their community councils, and it's not easy. So let's say I'm worried about them getting the full amount when they can't run the community council. In general, a lot of this money is because the community has had impositions in terms of renewable energy and other things. I mean, basically, if you don't have the turbines, you shouldn't get turbine money, but it doesn't work that way. But I mean, I don't really expect you to say anything about the Crawford situation, but I am worried about it. I don't know if I could just ask another question, Kenny. It's just for what I'm going to ask you, because if anybody knows, you know. We had a planning determination yesterday about a quarry, and I had people on to me about 10 o'clock last night saying, how come the section 75 is for the whole rural area when the quarry is in the middle of our community? Now, I think they all look like that to some extent. It's a village that has turbines doesn't necessarily get all the money. It's spread over a wide area. But I just wondered, with the quarrying fund, and I know aggregates fund is changing to some extent, what's the easiest answer to that? We've got the quarry, but the money goes into this rural area fund.
It will be the same as the wind farm funds. There'll be a circle drawn around, which is to concentrate the money closest to the communities. The thinking has generally been that aggregates is really small amounts of money in comparison to wind farm funds. So pretty much as you're saying, councillor, we wouldn't really want a very big circle. I haven't drawn the circle for that particular one that we're talking about, and I know about it from so it would actually be quite tightly drawn around the communities that are there. I think it's actually drawn for the quarry funds. The general thinking is it's tighter than the wind fund is 10 kilometres it's usually thought of as 5 kilometres for the quarries because it'll be £5,000 or £10,000 a year that comes in. There's no need so the assurance will be, I think it may have to go to committee to put that in the same as would for a wind farm, is it will be the local communities that benefit from that, the closest communities with the quarry. Because
Okay, yeah, well,
I suppose that.
I could rely on that, that's, I mean, that's a good, a good start.
it's,
5 kilometres would be good. But I have to wait until the next committee, not the planning committee, to find out what that is. It's not necessarily your job.
well, this one will be my job, and I hadn't, we do just manage that really tightly to the communities.
Yep.
I think you can guarantee the communities that are closest to that, which it's Holborn Quarry, is my understanding, is the one that we're talking about. It'd be the communities closest to that.
No, thanks, I'm very grateful for that.
Your stream, well, obviously stop you, but anyway, so I don't think there's anything else to be.
No.
So that's fine. Thank you very much, Kenny.
Okay, thank you.
So now we're moving on to item 7, which is the forward programme prediction meetings. So is everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Great. Good. And now we're on to 8, which is the community grant applications. Stuart, if you want to take us through that, we've got a declaration, so we can do that.
Thanks, Chair. This is a standard report submitted in respect of community grant applications and includes 4 applications that meet the relevant criteria. The summary of the financial position is provided in section 5 of the report, and the recommended grant awards are detailed in section 2.1. So as you say, Councillor Gowland has declared their interest, so I think you can maybe take that application B first of all, if you can do the meeting just for a minute or two, please. Application D is from ISCON Scotland Limited. The purpose of the grant is for materials, administration and publicity costs. The total eligible grant applied for was 1,000 and the recommendation is a grant award of £600.
I would agree that award. That's it. Okay, nobody else saying. Right now, it's fine. Agreed, so we can get. Think about something, get those students and get to it. It's agreed, Joss.
Okay, thank you. Application A is for the Law OAP Welfare Association. Purpose grant is unknowing. The total eligible grant applied for was £450 and the recommendation is a grant award of £300, which is the standard award for outings.
Move to agree that.
Agreed.
Application B is from Rigside and Douglas Valley Senior Citizens Community Golf Group at Douglas Water. The purpose of the grant is for entrance fees. Total eligible grant applied for is £250 and the recommendation is a grant of £250.
Like to recommend that. That amount.
Agreed. Second.
Yeah.
Thank you. And lastly, application C from Carmarthen Agricultural Society for administration and publicity costs. Total eligible grant applied for was £1,000 and the recommendation is a grant award of £600.
Agreed. Second.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's us. We have no further business. And that's the conclusion of the meeting. So I'd like to thank you all for your attendance today. It's nice to have it back in Lanark. I know it's been a bit of a maybe for some of the staff to come here, but it's nice to have it back where it should be. And thanks everybody and see you next week's training in October. Bye.
Yep.
It is really Catherine.
Bye.
Not practical for me to go